For the next session, identify revenue leakage and how to stop it. To do this, I would request CA Prashant Gupta, CEO and co-founder Firmway. CA Prashant Gupta is the co-founder and CEO of Firmway, a company revolutionizing accounting reconciliation with cutting-edge automation. A chartered accountant by qualifying and entrepreneur by passion, Mr. Prashant brings over 8 years of rich experience in finance and audit domain. Before embarking on his entrepreneurial journey, he worked at NVC managing statutory audit, internal audits, and taxation for large listed companies, and later in an investment bank. These experiences gave him in-depth knowledge of diverse business process and honed his expertise in streamlining operations. Driven by his passion for technology, Mr. Prashant co-founded Firmway in 2016. Since then, he has donned multiple hats in steering the company from inception to serving over 950 CA firms and corporate today. Can we have a huge round of applause for Mr. CA Prashant Gupta?
Good evening, everyone. Hopefully, I am audible. Excuse me for my bad throat. Quickly I'll get started with today's topic. Revenue leakages. So I'm also a chartered accountant by qualification, like it was mentioned, and we as finance experts, and definitely you guys with more experience, you know business and so well in and out, and you can understand that where a business is losing money, where it is making money, etc. So there are multiple areas where a business lose money, right? And these we call it as revenue leakages. And this is something which is not beyond the control of the company, because as you grow, you deal with so many customers and vendors, so that at different stages you start losing in some small amount of money. For example, bad debts, when we say deductions done by customers, right, we are not aware of, or maybe bad debts, write-offs which are there, which goes into the system, since there are small differences which keeps piling up in your transaction, that at the end of 3 years, 5 years, we come to know, okay, there is a huge difference which needs to be reconciled, and either of the company has to take a hit about that. The collection cycle impacts. So the more you start increasing your business, pushing your sales, getting more and more sales done, there are chances that the hard shells or etc. can result into losses for the company, or maybe delayed payments. On the vendor side also, the list is used where there are tax differences, GST differences, TDS differences. Vendor invoices are not accounted on timely basis. That is one of the biggest challenge industry face, like more than 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days delays are happening when it comes to vendor invoices being accounted. The entire flow post that, the GST, the MSME payments, the interest payments, the disallowances starts kicking in once you start delaying the MSME payments, etc. So the list is huge, and I am sure that we all are aware about the list. So what about the solution? So that is what we were here to discuss. The solution is also not something which is very unique. If we are able to say gain a complete control, so when a business is small, it is easier that you have say handful of customers, vendors, you have a complete control over their books, right? Ki what is the balance, what is the outstanding, I know that these are the invoices which are outstanding and I have a complete control. But the problem starts when you start dealing with more than 500,000 parties. The more parties you start dealing with, the lesser control you start having. And reconciliation is something which can give you that control, but the challenge is that it is not easy, and it has its own set of challenges. For any company who wants to do reconciliation with 100% of parties manually, that is definitely not possible. And if you want to increase the frequency to monthly or quarterly, that is even more impossible to assume of. So today what businesses do is they only reconcile 10%, 20% of their parties, covering 80% of the value. The reason being these challenges, most of you would already be aware of, that vendors or customers do not share their ledgers. Even if company decides to do a RICO, these parties would never share their ledgers. Even if they share their ledgers, they come from SAP, Oracle, Tally, Zoho, QuickBooks, Navision, Excel. So people have different accounting softwares, accounting patterns, some will share PDFs, Excel, so it again becomes really difficult for the companies to do that. The third is that it takes a huge amount of time, so the accounting accuracy is not that great in any company where a human is basically recording an invoice. So invoice number would be, there would be some errors which is going into invoice number punching, the dates would not be proper, there would be delays in the QC and everything. Definitely it's not a very interesting job, and you see a lot of attrition into the place where no one wants to do more than 3 months, 6 months. If you give them a dedicated profile, they don't want to go into reconciliations alone, right? So the challenges are much more. So say if you deal with 3,000 parties, it is estimated that you spend average 2 days per party, that is 6,000 man days, right from sending a request for ledger to the party, to collecting their ledgers, to analyzing it, reconciling it, identifying the open items, asking your business team to take the corrective action, sending it to vendor, back to the vendor or customer for a sign off. The entire activity will easily take minimum 2 man days. So if you have 3,000 parties, it will take 6,000 man days for you to do once a year. So which is almost around 24 full-time finance employees, which is a huge cost for a company, around 1.5 crore of just a payroll cost for the company. So the problem statement, and this again you will only be able to do only once a year. So that's where the entire challenge comes in, and it becomes impractical for a company to do a reconciliation at this speed. So in terms of another aspect is just I want to know by raise of hands, how many people you believe that vendor reconciliation and customer reconciliation can actually be automated, wherein depending upon your set of vendors and customers we deal with Indian markets. So if I can just have a quick show of hands. Right. So I guess 7-8 people do really feel that it can be automated. I am assuming that rest of the people are not actually convinced that this can be really automated, and this is what we have been dealing with last 7 years in terms of how we can actually automate it. It's actually done. So what we have built is a completely touchless reconciliation platform. So right from integrating with your SAP, Oracle, Navision, Zoho, QuickBooks, Tally, we will be fetching the details of your customers, vendors, their contact details, their ledgers. The system would be sending an emails, SMSs to these parties, will escalate the matter if they are not getting responses, will send it to multiple people, but ensure that the opposite party uploads their ledger in the link. And once they upload the ledger, we have a smart ledger reader which can read ledgers from any ERP, whether it is Tally, SAP, Oracle, Zoho, in the existing format. And once it reads the ledger ERP, it can start reconciling using AI. So we use AI where even if your invoice numbers are not matching, your date is different, your TDS difference is there, amount difference is there, the system can identify the nearest matches and can recommend matches to you. We have been, once the reconciliation is done, we are able to get 90-95% matches directly through the platform. We are able to see the entire reconciliation on the screen, and you will be able to match further entries and allocate the open items to your business team, so that the software will start giving you a complete reporting MIS that which of your business team is responding, solving the vendor queries, which are not, and along with the aging. So the entire from sending a request to collecting the ledger to a sign off can be actually automated. And this is not only theoretical, but we have actually implemented in many companies, including say Jindal Steel, Mahindra Group, say we have Fiat, Kalyani, then we have MCure Pharma. So multiple industries where we have already implemented the solution. So just a few case studies to just discuss like what actual impact we were able to create. For example, we did this process for one of the India's largest consumer durable company, where we were able to say they used to only able to do 50 reconciliation. They tried multiple ways. They had an in-house team of 3 to 4 people dedicated for reconciliation. They sometimes outsourced the entire process to another outsourced company where they were asking them to do the reconciliation on behalf of them, and they were able to do 50 reconciliations. But when we deployed this solution, we were able to do 500 reconciliation in just a period of 9 months. So we were with the existing team, which they had. Out of 4,000 crore of, say, their total purchase value, we were able to reconcile 2,289 crores, roughly around 56%. And we were able to identify a lot of good savings for the company. One was on the duplicate invoices. We were able to identify 33 lakhs worth rupees duplicate invoices which were accounted by them, which were not actually payable to the vendor. There was around 1 crore 30 lakhs amount of credit notes which were actually written off, raised by the vendor themselves, but the company was still showing them as an outstanding. Similarly, there were around 30 crores of invoices which vendor has raised, but the company did not accounted on their side. So that way the list is huge in terms of what we were able to identify for them from the vendor reconciliation. Another case study is where, say, the common problem which you might also be facing is the vendor responses. So there was one of the largest, again 8,000 crore adhesive company where we did this balance confirmation process with their customers and vendors. And in terms of when they used to do traditionally, it used to take them 90 days to complete this entire cycle of getting a response and a balance confirmation and a ledger for a reconciliation. We were able to complete in 15 days with, say, 5 reminders every 3 days going in. They used to get around 2% responses when they used to do it manually. When we automated it for them, we were able to get 53% response rate from the vendors. So that was a huge increase for them, and that is where they decided to implement in all their subsidiary companies also going forward. Then they used to get only 2 ledgers for reconciliation, because they used to follow, one, the response rate was very low. Second, there was no structured way where if there is a difference, one has to compulsorily attach a ledger. So we were able to collect 290 ledgers for them, and wherein they were not able to reconcile anything before, we were able to reconcile 290 ledgers for them. So that was the kind of impact we were able to create for getting a response. There are multiple ways in which we can generate a response from a vendor, because that's what we have been doing for last 7 years. But maybe more of detail we can connect. We have a stall outside here, so you can definitely come to the stall and you can ask and understand these queries more in detail. Another case study we have is which is a latest problem of MSME. So another challenge which companies are facing is, how do I identify which of my vendors are MSME, right? Is there any platform from wherein from pen based can I identify whether they are MSME, or do I have to check with vendors for the MSME? We did one process with again one of the chemical industry where they had around 20,000 vendors, and out of 20,000 vendors they only had 1,000 vendors flagged as MSME. So when we did this process, we were able to get 70% responses from the vendor with the MSME certificates. We were able to identify 5,000 new MSME vendors through the entire communication model and the OCR technology to read the certificate, and we were able to identify 19% cases there was a deviation than what vendor was stating his MSME status and what was actual MSME status on the government website, because the government is based on the IT return and GST returns are auto updating these statuses. So we were able to see a great saving in the 43-bit disallowance. We were able to see a great interest saving, because we were able to identify 5,000 more MSME vendors for them, and total MSME vendor stated as 6,000 for them. So these are a couple of case studies where how we can use, say, the AI for doing the reconciliations. There are multiple areas which can be automated basis on the same. How you can use technology, since we have been, since morning have been discussing a lot of technology and how it can be simply used and implemented in simplest form and manners to derive ROI for the companies. So lastly, just a brief about Firmway before we end today's session. We are a team of chartered accountants into automation. We started back in 2016, and we have built couple of solutions including, say, balance confirmation, customer vendor reconciliation, 26AS reconciliation, MSME confirmations, and data collection. So we have been serving now more than 1,000 plus corporates and have serialized more than 14 lakh plus confirmations. and reconciled more than 50,000 billion of transactions for the companies. So that's it about me. If there is any doubt, definitely come to us at this stall and would be glad to help you out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prashant. I would request you to please stay back on the stage. And to do the honors, I would request Mr. Sameer Madan from Agilent Technologies to honor him.